Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're breaking down another battle, I guess.
That's right, Johnny. The single most bloodiest day in U.S. history, even up to this point.
Wait, no. At this point in the Civil War.
No,
right?
like today, as of, whatever we're recording this, October 3rd, 2022. That's the record date.
It's the bloodiest day.
Still the bloodiest day. A single day.
This is for American soldier deaths.
Yeah, American
casualties,
deaths, yes.
whatever,
Yeah.
I assume. And
Yeah,
so,
America. Oh God, yeah. It doesn't come anywhere near what happened in World War I with some of those battles. But for us, for the Americans, we're going to lose more today than at any other day.
Sure. And it does help that we are on both sides of the battlefield here, so we're kind of stacking the deck here.
Stacking the deck a little bit. But in any case, we are talking about the Battle of Antietam. Johnny, I know a lot of people have been asking where the Battle of the Antietam is. We apologize for that. Johnny's been moving. I've had a couple of events to go to myself. It's been a lot. Yeah. We're here. We're recording now. You'll see it soon enough. It's the Battle of Antietam, which should have been the end of Lee. If on paper, it makes no sense that Lee escaped this. It makes no sense that the war lasted longer than this date, because anybody besides McClellan or Pope,
well, I mean,
it would have been fine.
Yeah, that's
anybody
the
else.
thing. Like, he got away because of ineptitude by the North and their generals, and just them being bad at their job.
Being awful at their
essentially.
job.
I mean, right? Like,
so we'll get into it, Johnny. The background here leading up to the battle. At this point in 1862, things aren't going so great for the North. Unlike the early spring and early summer, the late summer, early fall has turned into kind of a pro-Southern fiasco.
A shit show.
A little bit of a shit show. While the Mississippi is still under predominantly Union control, the South has won several good victories, including the Second Battle of Bull Run, where they made Pope look like a fool, and they have invaded the North in both the West at Kentucky and in the East at Maryland. So not too great there. We've got a two-front war with both fronts having made progress into Northern territory. This two-front invasion is going to be the best opportunity during the entire war for the Confederates to win. And despite crappy Union generaling, it doesn't much matter, and we still managed to come out to save ourselves. And really, the war should have been over, but it's not going to be.
So what, if they were more dominant in this, or if they actually gained ground or did
something? I would argue
it would have been over, you think? Or
I still don't think the war would have ever gone in the Southern's hands, but it right now was the best time for it to have gone in the Southern hands. If they could have won a predominant victory in Kentucky and won a predominant victory in Maryland, I think that would have been their best opportunity to sue for peace and come up with at least a semblance of
because at that point,
out of the deal. Yeah,
I mean, at this point, everybody's sick of the war. It was supposed to be over a long time ago. Yeah. And if the North takes two losses like that, you think that people would just be like, no, we're done supporting this at all.
I think the border states
call it done and be done.
Yeah, I think the border states, Kentucky, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana.
They don't want any of that smoke.
I mean, you got to remember, it's not that long ago that Maryland was afraid to go to his inauguration because he thought he might get executed. So it's not
that little thing
hard to believe that some of these border states might have been like, all right, we're done, pack it in, come up with some kind of peace treaty. But somehow we managed to avoid that. This battle is going to be fought between Union General McClellan and all of his gloriously awfulness, and Robert E. Lee, who's going to be made looking even better because he fought McClellan through this whole first chunk of the war.
Yeah, because your competition is garbage.
Underneath General McClellan is the Army of the Potomac with 87,164 men. Keep that number in line. And underneath Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia, he has just 38,000 men. So right now, on paper,
that's
very pro-Union.
More than double.
Yeah, more than 2-to-1 odds here. And you also have to remember that we're fighting on our home turf. So we don't have to worry about supply train issues. We don't have to worry about, people taking pot shots at us in the woods, from local citizenry.
Right, just farmers coming by. And
Lee that has to worry about all of that. So the lead up here, Johnny, on August 30th, Lee is going to invade Maryland after his victory there in the Battle of Bull Run, the second one. His goal here is to score a major victory in the North and destroy Northern morale to the point where the South could sue for peace to create some semblance of a nation out of that. Lee thought he would be met with open arms in Maryland with volunteers and supplies coming out of the woodwork. After all, Baltimore riots in 1861 gives a good, strong impression that there is pro-Southern ideology there in Maryland.
But still?
But what he doesn't factor in is that when you invade somebody's house, it doesn't matter whether you look like them, own slaves like them, or have the same thought patterns as them. When you invade their property, they don't like it too much, and they're going to take pot shots at you, and not, oh my God, they don't give them supplies, and there's not volunteers running out of the woodwork.
Oh. Yeah, instead they're coming to their front door with their shotguns and telling them to get the hell out of here and shooting their heels on the way out.
On September 9th, Lee is going to dispatch Special Order 191, which commands that Jackson move his forces to Martinsburg, while McClellan and Walker would take up Harper's Ferry. Meanwhile, Longstreet's forces are going to move to Boonesboro, while A.P. Hill would act as a rear guard near Frederick. Special Order dispersing his entire army across Maryland. Make as much havoc as he can. And while McClellan's army was moving into pursuit of Lee, they're going to enter Frederick, and 2 soldiers from the 27th Indiana News!
Represent, baby. Let's go. How do we do?
Yeah, it's a Corporal Barton Mitchell and a First Sergeant John Bloss are going to be kicking around the city on September 13th when around noon they find a few cigars lying on the ground wrapped in a piece of paper. And pray tell you what is written on that piece of paper but Lee's War Order 191 dictating his entire troop movements on this campaign. You can't ask for a better gift if you are in the North.
Why wrapped in a cigar? Why cigar?
I'm assuming somebody
he thought that would be safe.
I'm gonna preface this. We don't know who it was. Jeb Stuart. Has some cigars, had my war orders. All right, I'm never going to lose my cigars and, keep the cigars wrapped up, put them in my pocket. He misses his inside pocket.
Oh, no. Has a little hole or has a hole in it.
Has a hole in it. Might have missed it. Things happen. Yeah. And it fell onto the ground. And this intel is going to be rushed to McClellan, where he's going to sit on it for 18 hours while he decides what to do. His first thought is maybe it's not legit. And then the second thought is it probably is legit because it seems such like a haphazardly stupid thing. And then he's still not going to do anything on it for 18 hours because it's McClellan. And if we're honest here, 18 hours is actually rushing it for him to do anything.
If it weren't legit and the South really did just wrap fake plans around some cigars and drop them in the mud and expect that the
Union would just happen upon
soldiers would happen upon it, unwrap it, look at it, read it, and then follow along and with whatever diversion they actually plan. Like that's 4D chess right there. That's
definitely some 4D chess going on. And while McClellan's sitting there deciding what to do, Jeb Stuart is going to report back to Lee. This is why I say that Jeb Stuart probably was the one who lost them. And he's going to say, you see, somebody. Don't know who.
Some guy
may have dropped your orders on the ground, and may perchance some Union boys might have picked them up and given them to McClellan. So we might want to rethink what we're doing here because I think the enemy might know exactly what it is that we're doing here.
Yeah, there's a chance. Yeah, I lost that very important piece of paper you gave me. And we might want to not do that thing anymore, or are they going to go ahead and keep doing that thing?
So 18 hours of pure wasted opportunity to strike at Lee or Longstreet or Jackson or A.P. Hill or McClellan while they're all separated. Do anything with the Army of Virginia. He doesn't do any of that. And when he finally does decide to move his army, he's going to decide to go after McClellan in an attempt to stop the Harper's Ferry from being captured. He's going to send a Major General William Franklin towards Crampton's Gap at South Mountain, where he will engage with Lafayette McLaws. Quickly pushing aside McLaws, Franklin is going to ignore his advantage and entrench his positions because, after all, he's learned from McClellan, and what we do is instead of attacking when we have numerical advantage and they have the enemy on the run, we stop and we dig a hole to hide in.
This is such an unbelievably frustrating war.
Yeah, especially if you're a fan of the blue. Yeah.
God, it's just stupidity after stupidity, and just they're not doing shit. They just sit there and dig in, and wait until they have 100-1 odds.
Yeah, it's like we forgot that we're on the... Well, I guess at this point, to be fair, we are on the defensive.
Bit on the defensive because
but, like, screw it, we should have pushed
Southern aggression is getting out of hand.
Southern aggression is getting a little out of hand. McClellan is going to do nothing to add reinforcements or attempt to help to crush McLaw while he had the chance. So McLaw is able to continue on his pursuit towards Harper's Ferry.
So just a small little hiccup. And then, and now we're good to go, and he's going to keep on going.
And all the gloriousness that we did on that day is going to be completely overwashed on the 15th, when Jackson is going to take Harper's Ferry with little to no resistance, despite the Union having 12,000 men at Harper's Ferry who are going to surrender without really putting up any of a fight, and all become prisoners, all 12,000 of them.
Now, that was just a ploy by the North to screw the South out of more resources. Yeah.
Now you got to have
12,000 mouths you got to feed.
You guys got to have people watch those 12,000 men. Those 12,000 mouths you got to feed. It's a long game. It's a long Kong. I got you, Johnny. Long Kong.
Brilliant, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Yep.
Sorry to those 12,000 folks that have to go to a war camp in the South where you don't have food, but
Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Lee was actually considering withdrawing his forces out of Maryland after hearing his plans were lost. But once he hears that Jackson took Harper's Ferry, he changes his plan once again on the rise, builds a defensive line near Sharpsburg which is right by Antietam Creek. This is why the Confederates call the battle Sharpsburg. We call it Antietam Creek because we won, so we get to name it. So screw you.
That's the rules.
And he recalls all of his forces to him. Jackson is going to leave Harper's Ferry on the 16th to move towards Antietam Creek, leaving A.P. Hill behind to deal with the whole formal surrendering of the city and all that stuff that comes with you have to watch these 12,000 men that we just captured.
Yeah.
Now, Lee's position was pretty solidly defensible, but his back is against the Potomac and leaves him little room to escape if things go south. But since he's fighting McClellan, that's not going to actually happen.
Of course not.
2 Union divisions are going to arrive near Antietam Creek in the afternoon of the 15th, with the remainder of the army arriving overnight. And on the 16th, Johnny, we do not have a battle because it's McClellan, and we're just going to piss away a day and let Lee continue to draw his army together.
I've said it once, I'll say it again. He's a Southern sympathizer, and he is trying to lose this war for the North. There's no other explanation for his actions throughout this war.
That's what he's going to do. He's going to decide to probe a little bit of Lee's left flank to see, hey, what's the army looking like? What's the army doing? Is it the left flank weak? So he's going to do a little bit of a probing attack, and he decides to do the left flank because he decides crossing over the Antietam Creek on Lee's right flank was too difficult of a pass, despite the fact
Antietam Creek, you say?
Antietam Creek is on average 50 meters wide and waist deep, so pretty much cross wherever the hell you want.
Yeah, just walk. Just go ahead and right across.
Yep, and oh boy, was that's the wrong choice because the Battle of Antietam is going to kick off at 5:30 a.m. on the 17th, Johnny, with an assault down Hagerstown Turnpike. The assault is going to be led by Joseph Hooker. Hooker, like we've talked about in previous battles, like to have his ladies around him, hence the term hookers. So, Hooker. He's going to kick off the battle with his 8,600 men against Jackson's 7,700 men. His goal here is to take Dunker Church. The Union troops will first exit the wood line and enter the cornfield, which begins a massive artillery duel between both sides, which will be described as artillery hell, and led to heavy casualties on both sides, as these cannons are within canister range of each other, and they're just pouring in basically gigantic shotgun shots at each other.
Like a cornfield, within a
cornfield.
The confines of a cornfield, this is happening. That's not a long distance. I know there's a big cornfield. That's not a far distance. So.
No, it's a cornfield. And they're getting cut to hell. Seeing the glint of Confederate bayonets in the cornfield, Hooker's going to bring up an additional 4 batteries of cannons that fire canister over the Union heads into the field, resulting in even more bloodbath.
Yeah, this corn is now red.
This resulted in damn near point-blank fighting of assault and counter-assault with hand-to-hand fighting by both sides, firing so fast that fouled guns became the norm, and it wasn't so uncommon that it was like, shit, I can't I can't get the bullet down the hole anymore. Yeah. Well, this dead guy, maybe he fired a few less shots. Let's try his guy.
Could you imagine hand-to-hand combat in that field with everything else? Like,
no!
Artillery shells are crashing all over the place. Obviously, legs and hands and heads are flying all about the place because they're getting blown to shit. And you're trying to bayonet some dude.
And
God.
I can't really overstate it. It basically becomes an everybody for themselves quagmire because the officers who are trying to, like, give some semblance of orders, like, you can't hear it from the sound. You can't see it from the corn and the smoke.
Yeah,
so it's
I was going
to
say,
everybody for themselves.
It had to have been blind fighting, because if you haven't, check out some of our little short gun videos and take a look at all the smoke.
Yeah, there's one dude shooting one gun. I need to find like 50 reenactor volunteers that would live fire with me. And I mean live fire, like actual pew pew. Because I want to see the smoke cloud that like half a company of men would actually do.
Two or three rounds with that many people doing it. It's a fog machine, basically.
Yeah, fog machine.
You're going to be completely blind.
McClellan is going to fail to properly throw his forces into the field and instead do a piecemeal attack that will result in Jackson absorbing the assault, then counter-assaulting, absorbing the assault, then counter-assaulting, resulting in very little ground gained and massive casualties on both sides. Because one of... slightly spoiler alert here, one of Stonewall Jackson's commanders is going to lose over 60% of his force, and stay tuned to the end to find out who that was.
Holy cow.
With the cornfield being a stalemate, McClellan's going to order Brigadier General John Gibbons to assault just a few hundred yards to the west, where he will push Jackson's men, and then immediately get assaulted by 1,150 men from the Confederate Stark's Brigade that level the volley at just 30 yards. But even if they happen to be all smoothbore guns, it doesn't matter. It's point blank. Those rounds are hitting home.
That's nothing. Like, that's...
Now, Stark himself is going to be forced to withdraw after General Reynolds throws his men into the action and overwhelms Stark and then pushes Stark back. So again...
just nothing.
It's a ping pong match.
Yeah, with dozens or hundreds of people dying each time and getting injured and
now
probably running the hell away.
Keep in mind, it's still the wee hours of the morning because at 7 a.m. Hooker is able to advance on Dunkerchurch.
So that's the other thing. I'm sorry. 5:30 a.m.
Oh, it's dark. You're not seeing shit. Yeah, it's still dark.
The sun's starting to come up around that time.
Yeah, it's still dark.
Sort of.
Yeah, it's still dark.
And then when it does, you have the friggin' sunrise to deal with at one of the sides that you can't see shit that way either. This is a disaster. What? Who?
Anyways, Hooker is going to advance on Dunkerchurch, nearly having Jackson's men routed until the Confederates get reinforcements from McLaw's and Anderson's divisions, saving Jackson's butt. Hood's men will assault the Union positions on the West Woods, or at the West Woods, and is going to lose 60% of his men.
Is that just because he's just going,
just don't
care?
But he prevents the Confederate line from folding, so I guess.
I get it. They still lost the war, so was it worth it?
And Johnny, the battle is just 2 hours old, and there are 2,500 casualties on the ground. Hooker is back at his original starting position, so over 2 hours, we've lost 2,500 people on both sides total combined, and get nothing. Nothing has been gained by either side.
2,005. The town I just moved to has about 2,700 people.
So the whole town that you moved to, Johnny,
the entire town that I moved to,
gone
in 2 hours.
Gone.
Wiped out.
At 7:20, Union forces under Sumner are going to attempt to flank the Confederates' left, but Sumner is going to order an unusual battle line of 3 brigades and 3 lines just 50 yards apart. So just figure his whole army
just stacking
them up, which is like not like you might do that for marching. You don't do that to when you're going into combat. That's stupid.
It seems like a bad idea. It seems like a revolutionary war.
Yeah, well, and they're going to get cut down by Confederate artillery, forcing the Union to retreat after losing an additional 2,200 casualties. Because why the fuck not?
Now we're up to what, 5,000?
4,700 casualties between both sides, yeah. And that's going to end the morning phase of this bloodbath. By midday...
Yeah, and now it's lunchtime.
5,000
people dead. Mm-hmm. Hold on, I need another drink. Good God.
I'm going to continue talking while you get your drink, Johnny. By midday, the fighting shifts inadvertently towards the Confederate center when Sumner's forces underneath French get lost, go south, and eager to get into the fight, they're going to hit the Confederate center, and at what point becomes known as Bloody Lane. And he will do so by sending 3 brigades against Hill, one at a time again, because again, it's the North, and instead of using the numerical advantage to our advantage, we're going to send one person in at a time and just let him get cut down.
This is the part where we just send all the sheep to slaughter. And just
we're sending the sheep. Yeah, we're sending sheep. French's only experienced troops, because his whole command basically is inexperienced raw recruits. His only experienced troops will be the final wave. Why he doesn't send them in the first wave, I don't know, but he sends them in the final wave, and he's going to lose.
Final boss style, like you got to go to the inexperienced ones, and then you build up, and then you get final ones that are actually trained to walk over the dead bodies of the.
And he's going to lose 1,750 men in just under an hour. Now, keep in mind, McClellan has 24,000 men in reserve that have not done anything yet. 24,000 men in reserve. That is damn near Lee's entire army that he has in reserve that have not done anything up to this point. Keep that in mind. As we continue to go forward.
Does he eventually get charged with war crimes or something for his ineptitude?
No, he tries to run for president and it goes out really bad for him. But anyways,
thank God.
We have the 4th major assault of the day by the Union, which will be led by the poor Irish, because we don't consider them human at this point either, with their emerald green flags flying, the Catholic priests, reading last rites because that's needed.
They brought him along with them?
Yeah, they did. And they charge headfirst into the Bloody Lane and get cut down, losing 540 of their men.
Like, they're just running to their death.
Sorry about you, Irish. Finally, progress is made in the north when General Cadwell's brigade will see a weak point in the Confederate line and sees a knoll that commands a sunken road, turning the Bloody Lane into an enfilade fire of death and destruction on the Confederate side. And from 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., this 800-yard lane earns its name by claiming 5,600 casualties between the two armies. 5,600 men between 9:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. That's more than the vast majority of battles we've had in the Civil War up to this point in just one section of the battlefield. Just
800 yards. Just lay them all into it and go back and forth like 20 times. Like, good God.
Probably, yeah. By late morning, early afternoon, McClellan's going to realize that his plan isn't working. And he's gonna.
So not only is he slow to react to anything, he's also slow to realize that this is not going my way. Maybe we should do something different.
Now, to be fair, I have to get, we are losing a crap ton of casualties. We're also inflicting a crap ton of casualties. So this is just a bloodbath on our end. It's a bloodbath on everyone. I have to, because I think viewers at home might be
dying on both sides. Who gives a
North
shit?
Just got cut to shit entirely in this, but we were it's pretty bloody on both sides. Now, he's going to order that Burnside make a diversionary attack on the Confederate right flank. Remember that flank that he said you can't pass through because there's the water's too deep. There's only a bridge or two, and you can't do that. So he's going to order that Burnside make an attack on that right flank. Now, initially, this was the plan all along. Like, Burnside was supposed to do that in the morning, but McClellan told Burnside not to move unless explicitly told to move. So Burnside sat there and waited. When they both the attacks on the flank should probably happen at the same time. If you're going to do a diversionary attack to stop the battle going on the left flank, that right flank diversionary attack probably should have started at the same time. But he was explicitly told
because
don't move.
That way you get people turning in opposite directions.
Yeah. Don't move until I tell you to move, and he doesn't get those orders till 10 o'clock in the morning.
And by now, what, 5,000 people?
Yeah, dead? we've got a crap ton of dead. And Burnside wanted to attack the southern end of Lee's line to divert the attention from Hooker in the north. Hooker started his attack at 5:30 in the morning. Burnside doesn't even get ordered to move until 10. There's a big discrepancy there, and that's why probably like 5,000, 6,000 people died already, all because the diversion didn't actually do what the diversion was supposed to do. Now, Burnside has 4 divisions, 50 cannon, totaling 12,500 men, and he has to cross the Antietam, which is guarded by Confederate forces underneath Jones, only totaling 3,000 men on paper. This should be a pretty easy walk in the park.
You got 4 times as many, so... And the way this battle's going, you just line up 4 dudes, send them 4 at a time, and see if they can take over everybody.
But you see, to cross the Antietam Creek, one could take the path of the Middle Bridge to the north. They could go through Boonesboro Road and into Sharpsburg on that northern route. They could take the Roderick Bridge in the middle, or go south and take Shavley's Ford. Now, mind you, most of the creek is no more than 50 meters wide. Most of the creek is no more than waist deep. So the ford is probably the best way to do this, because it's not
just walk across,
really defended. Yeah, just walk, get your boots wet, walk across. It's not really all that defended. But instead, he's going to choose to attack the center bridge for reasons. And keep in mind,
because it was closest.
What makes the approach to the center bridge bad is that the road that runs to the center bridge, which you're going to walk along to get to the bridge, it runs parallel to Antietam Creek, and opposite of Antietam Creek are woods, bluffs, cliffs face with lots of rocky coverage, which means that the Confederates could line that entire way with sharpshooters and just cut to shit the Union guys as they're walking to the bridge, which is exactly what they do.
Cool.
Now, the bridge itself was only defended by 400 dudes, but when you have to walk fucking turkey shoot to get there, that number becomes much bigger than what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it's not so bad when they're just in cover on the side and just have walking ducks.
Now, Brigadier General Burnside orders Colonel George Crook to take said bridge. Crook is going to order the Ohio Brigade, Crook is going to order that the 11th Connecticut from his Ohio Brigade is going to clear the bridge of rebels so that the rest of the Ohio Brigade can assault across the bluff and then move on to Sharpsburg. That's the whole plan here. And after only 15 minutes, the Connecticut boys were cut to shreds, losing 139 men, which is a third of their force, before they even get to the damn bridge, including their commanding officer, Colonel Henry Kingsbury, because sharpshooters in concealed positions,
they're pretty good at it.
Picking open, like it's open road. They're just picking them off as they're walking up.
How many people do you think they killed before they just started feeling bad?
I don't think they ever.
Like, this is... at some point, they had to think this is literally just murdering people.
Murder at this point. Yeah, you might be right. To make matters worse, Johnny, that force that was sent down to the ford to do a diversionary attack, that they were told by McClellan's, engineers was like an open ford. Like, there's a ford there, you could pass down that point easily, go down that point. So there was a diversionary attack that was going on at the same time that Burnside's assaulting the bridge. Now, the diversionary attack, when they get down to the ford, realizes that ford is not crossable. It is actually the rare deep part of the Antietam Creek, and it's mountainy terrain on both sides. And apparently, McClellan's engineers are about as good as he is coming up with battle plans. So
it seems
that
like
diversionary attack on the ford isn't happening.
Well, it sounds like he hired himself a bunch of other Southern sympathizers.
At least not happening to the speed that they want it to be happening there. And after several hours of no success by the Ohio Brigade, Burnside is going to send in his second assault with one of Sturgis's brigades. And they're also going to cut shit by Confederate sharpshooters and artillery, because you're only sending like a chunk of one brigade instead of the whole damn force. It is now noon, and McClellan becomes impatient, ordering Burnside to move forward, even, and I quote, if it costs him 10,000 men. So if anybody deserves the moniker of butcher at this point, it is McClellan, because he flat out in writing says, move your forces, even if you lose 10,000 people, I don't give a shit, move them.
How is he all of a sudden going to be like, oh, now we need to do shit and I don't care if people die, when up until this point all he's been doing is, I don't know, I don't have enough people to do anything, so I gotta just wait.
Yeah, so Burnside is going to send Sturgis's other brigade at 12:30, led by Brigadier General Edward Ferry. The drunkard from Carter, the Battle of the Crater. Ferry, the ballet dancer guy. Yeah, they're going to send him in, but before the crater, he's still a drunkard, and Burnside says, and I'm not making this up, take the bridge with this artillery support I'm giving you, and I promise I'm going to restore the whiskey rations to your unit.
That's how you get an alcoholic to do something.
And so if you take it, I'll give you your whiskey back.
Find me a better way to get an addict to do something.
Well, Fierro's going to capture an enemy howitzer, put it within 25 yards of the bridge, rain double canister fire into the Confederates, and by 1 p.m., Toombs, the commander of those 400 troops that are there, has received reports that the Union forces had finally crossed the ford, and his flank was about to be turned, and he had very little ammunition left, so he's going to withdraw his forces, but only after he's committed 500 casualties to the Union, while only losing 160 of his own men, so he did his job.
That's
and
nice.
Really couldn't have asked for a better defense than what he put up. And the success is for nothing because Burnside's assault onto Sharpsburg is going to stall when he tries to move all of his men over that bridge and get all of the supplies, the ammunition that they need to reinforce those, across that bridge, and it becomes a quagmire because this bridge isn't very big. And
bottlenecks a little bit.
Bottlenecks. So 2 more hours are going to be wasted. Lee is going to order all available artillery, not troops, but artillery, to aid Jones in his defense of Sharpsburg. And he's going to gamble that A.P. Hill's forces are going to arrive from Harper's Ferry in time, because at the start of this battle, Jackson had asked A.P. Hill to bucket back over, ignore the whole surrender shit, just get your ass over here, we need your help. And at 2:30 p.m., A.P. Hill is talking with Lee about where to position his men, so successfully gambled for Lee because Burnside wasted 2 hours trying to get across a bridge. Oh, man. After the bridge is already taken. Tries to get across the bridge.
Sure, yeah. And that's, good God, this is, and not over yet. Or is it?
Not over yet.
Okay.
No, we're not over yet, Johnny. By 3 p.m., Burnside is going to leave Sturgis's men in reserve of the bridge, and he's going to take 8,000 fresh troops, 22 cannon, to turn the Confederate flank and move on to Sharpsburg, unaware that the Confederates now have another 3,000-man reinforcements here. So this might not spell so very well for him in the near future. The initial assault with the 79th New York was successful at pushing Jones back to Cemetery Hill, just 200 yards from the city of Sharpsburg. The city is in full panic as Confederates are retreating through the city, and the civilians are like, there's all these people.
Yeah, no kidding.
Of Jones' entire force,
you don't want an army running away through your city.
Of Jones' entire force, only Toombs is standing to fight, but he has only 700 men of his original forces left. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, 400 of those were at the bridge. He lost 160 of those, so he's got 700 men left. And I can't stress this enough. If we take that city, Lee's retreat path is gone. If we take the city, Lee can't retreat. We press in. Lee has to surrender. Can't get across the Potomac. Potomac's not Antietam Creek. You can't just walk across the Potomac.
Right.
His back is to the river. If Sharpsburg's taken, he has no path out.
Now, to be fair, if we did take it, we would have just sat there and let him slowly build a boat and paddle his way across.
Right. We 100% would have done that. But A.P. Hill's counterattack is going to start at 3:40, stalling Burnside. He also cheats here, Johnny, because a portion of his army is wearing Union uniforms that they stole from Harper's Ferry, which confuses Burnside's men.
What? I mean, that's
cheating. I think it's a war crime. I think it
feels like it feels like it should be a
war crime. If it's not, it feels like it should be. The Union forces from Connecticut had only been in service for a few weeks and had quickly broken ran after losing 185 men, which I don't blame them. Like, they barely even know how to march, and they're sending in battle. So
yeah, I get it. The training and the time from training until you're in a battle was not very long.
Not very long,
especially at this point, because at this point we're under conscription.
Limited in the North. It doesn't like the conscription order went out, but it never actually had to be done yet because there was enough volunteers to fill those ranks. Okay. But there was an initial conscription order, but like I said, it wasn't actually enforced because do anything. There was enough.
These were still volunteers, but also poorly trained for the most part.
Very much.
Or hastily trained, perhaps, is a better way to put it. But.
Now, the Rhode Island boys from Burnside, they're going to try to make a counterattack, but couldn't see shit through the corn. And also, what they did see were Confederates in Union uniforms shooting at them, so they got confused and also would run away, leaving only the 8th Connecticut to fend for themselves. And Burnside is going to ultimately order his entire force back to the west bank of Antietam, where he asked McClellan for more men and guns, and that they could take the Confederate flank, even with the reinforcement. Like, he knows AP Hill's there now. But he's like, look, okay, I know AP Hill's there. I know I've seen the head count. We can still take it. I just need, give me one more corps. Give me one more brigade.
Give me one more push.
Give me one more push. Give me some ammunition. Give me some guns. We can do this. McClellan is going to famously say, and I quote, "I can do nothing more. I have no infantry," when in fact he had 2 fresh corps in reserve, 24,000 men that never did anything at all during the entire battle, but sit there because McClellan is a fuckwit.
Maybe he just forgot.
And the battle comes to an end.
Somebody reminds him, what about the 24,000 men that you...
Johnny, the battle's going to...
Oh, shit! Really?
No, the battle's going to come to an end at a stalemate because McClellan refuses to put his reserves in, even though he could have crossed the bridge, because Burnside didn't retreat back across the bridge. He still held the bridge. But instead, they're not going to commit those troops, and they're just going to kind of let the battle pitter out during that night. And you might be thinking to yourself, okay, there's a whole nother day. 90% of these battles have been more than one day. Nope. McClellan's going to do fuck all over the next day, and the battle's over in just one day. Now, so aftermath report, Johnny.
Hold on real quick before the aftermath report, because it's going to lead into my argument here. I'm not sure I'd want to fight a second day after... After what happened,
but you still
go ahead with your aftermath report after this. I feel like
okay, John, fine.
Maybe
all right, aftermath report. Casualties. We'll do the casualties first. Of the 87,164 Union forces that were at the battle, 2,108, the big difference there. 2,108 are going to be killed outright. 9,549 are wounded, of which 1,910 of those are going to die, and 753 are going to be captured or missing for a 14% casualty loss, although if you take out the 24,000 that didn't actually participate, you're now higher. More like a quarter, like a 25% casualty rate. Of the Confederate forces, 3,800 engaged, or 38,000 engaged. Lee is going to lose 1,567 killed, 7,752 wounded. Of those, 1,550 are going to die. 1,018 captured or missing for a total of 27% casualty loss. And it actually is closer to a third when you figure the non-combatants in there. Like if you look up the Battle of Antietam, like you'll see like Union lost a quarter and Confederates lost a third. And that's
how they get to those numbers.
Why they get to those numbers. Yes. So in some forces, like Hood's, are going to lose 60% of his men because bloodbath. McClellan is not going to attack Lee on the 18th. Instead, during the day of the 18th, there is a general ceasefire for both sides, which is in effect while they collect their wounded and dead. And to be fair,
they try to figure out what to do with 3,000 bodies each,
and like damn near 20,000 wounded.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then McClellan's going to allow Lee to retreat over the Potomac over the night of the 18th, giving McClellan a technical victory because Lee is going to withdraw from Maryland. But
winner.
Is it a victory?
It's not. It's no. Like most battles, it's a hollow victory at best.
He's also going to significantly fail to pursue Lee, outraging Lincoln and Halleck. At one point, Halleck is going to say of the Army of the Potomac that, and I quote here, "The long inactivity of so large an army in the face of a defeated foe, and during the most favorable season for rapid movements and vigorous campaign, was a matter of great disappointment and regret," because literally at this point, had McClellan thrust... I mean... his reserves enough were there to recover his casualties. Like, if he just had the next day, your reserves, all right, yeah, you lost a shit ton of men, but your reserves fill those ranks, and the Confederates have no reserves to fill those ranks. And not only do they have no reserves to fill those ranks, they're limited ammunition, they're limited food. Like, the war should have been over.
It's embarrassing.
It should have been over on the 18th. It should have been over. Hit him again.
Tommy, this is the third or fourth time you've said that too about the war should have been over.
Yeah. Well, and it's all because McClellan not doing shit.
If somebody would have gone and pursued this, that, or the other, we don't pursue.
Now, Johnny, are you ready for it? This is the one. This is one that's really gonna piss you off. Lincoln is gonna finally, and I mean finally, relieve McClellan of command, ending his military career, but not until November 5th. After a whole fall of him doing fuck all, Lincoln finally relieves him of command.
So
wasting
another month?
A month of prime, like the fall. The fall is, that's when, in the Civil War, that's when you want to fight. Because the weather's not bad, the ground's relatively dry.
They mentioned that about the movement.
Said that. Yeah.
He said straight up, this is the easiest time. Take a walk outside like this week, folks. It's amazing. It's
just fall air is glorious.
If you're not from the Midwest, this is the time to visit the Midwest. It's beautiful out. So, don't bother, but this would be the time if you had to visit the Midwest, I guess.
There's that. And the final note of the battle is Lincoln is going to use this victory to announce the Emancipation Proclamation, which he then promptly follows up with suspension of habeas corpus. So, civil liberties!
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about all the bad things that John Quincy Adams did.